What's up, everybody? Episode 227, Catfish on Ice with Chad Minton and Max Greenberg. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm paranoid. Apparently, I'm in the minority here. Apparently, no one is worried except for me. But just call me paranoid all you want.
There's definitely some people that are worried.
Yeah, you get a little numb to losing, or you get a little numb to winning because you go on an 18-game point streak, and now you've lost 3 in a row. But we're going to get into it. All right, we got a lot of work to do. 7 games left in the regular season. Preds lose a very hard-fought game to the Bruins. This team doesn't know how to get points, even in really games they play really hard. That's what really grinds my gears about this team is they don't know how to get points, even if it's loser points in overtime, in games that they played really well in. They always find a way to lose in regulation.
Now, I would have been in a much better mood if we got a point out of that game, but that was frustrating.
Yeah, we're gonna break that game down. We're gonna look at it and talk about it. I do realize that the Bruins are a bona fide Stanley Cup contender, and the Preds matched them toe-to-toe up until the third period. Then that shorthanded goal happened. We're going to break it down. I'm still paranoid. Call me crazy. But we're going to get into that. We're going to preview this really massive matchup coming up on Thursday against the Blues, who just won't go away. They're like that cold that you can't shake, that just lingers. That's what I'm calling the Blues. They just linger. They just won't go away.
I call them like a cockroach.
Okay, that's a good one too. I'm calling it a cold. It's like that cold where it's the sniffles and it just won't go away no matter what you do. I don't know. They won't go away. And I've forgotten about every other team except for the Blues. So
I think they're the only one that's really left. I mean, the Minnesota Wild aren't out of it, but
But obviously, you need to take care of business on Thursday. We know that.
Yep.
You can't turn it into a 4-game losing streak. I don't care what the playoff models say. It's still like 98%. I get it. They're way smarter than me. They do all the math and all the what do they call it? Like the simulations, thousands of simulations. I know it's way over my head, but I just don't see. I don't see how it's 98%. I don't see how it's that high.
Truth is, whenever you're in this situation, you don't look at percentages. You just look at taking care of your business. Because we've seen in, like, not just hockey, these sports in general, percentages do not matter.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, they do, but they don't.
And I love Money Puck. I mean, it's like my favorite site. I visit that site like every day. It's a great site. And there's other playoff probability models out there who are saying the same thing. The Preds are like 98%, 99%. They're going to do it. They're going to make it. But you even got PK Subban out there who made his return to Bridgestone Arena. It was awesome to see him, and he's talking like the Preds are already in the playoffs. Love seeing him back in Bridgestone, and I can hear him. I can listen to him talk hockey like hours and hours on end. I mean, he's so charismatic. He's so great with the way he just talks about the game, and so it was great to see him back in Nashville. And but we're going to preview the Blues matchup. I'm going to tell you guys why the Blues scare me so much, but I'll save that for that segment. Also, me and Max are going to do our top 5 Stanley Cup contenders going into the playoffs. I made my top 5 list. Max made his. We did this within the hour of going live tonight. So this is very much off the cuff. So that'll be fun. We'll put that on the screen for our YouTube viewers. Hit subscribe if you're watching live on YouTube right now. If you're watching on X or Facebook, also head on to our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe or just hit the like button on X or Facebook. We'd appreciate that. We're going to look at the playoff races right now and the other things that are going on. Race for the top of the Central, the President's Trophy race. The Eastern Conference race is also very interesting right now. You've got a situation in the Eastern Conference where nobody wants to just seize it and take it. I mean, you got the Devils, you got the Flyers, you got the Islanders, you got all these teams that just don't want to take it grab the bull by the horns and just take it. And what did we see tonight? Beautiful hockey at its glory days.
Oh, man.
Devil Rangers dropped the gloves at the opening faceoff.
A full line brawl. It was, I believe, 8 ejections and like over 130 penalty minutes.
Yeah, so David Pagnotta of the fourth period puts 130 penalty minutes as a result of Mortal Kombat 2 seconds into the game. # finish him. Big Cat, Barstool Big Cat puts this rules. I mean, PK Subban put, it's a brawl for it all. Fighting in hockey is the best entertainment in sports, period. I mean, it's all over. So, yeah, anytime you see all the gloves drop at the opening faceoff, it makes you want to talk about hockey. It's funny because one of those teams is the Devils, who have just been, just stumbling along, and you're wondering if they're just going to be eliminated already. They were a team that was expected to be much better than they have performed. Absolutely. But wow. I mean, just to see the gloves dropped like that's pretty fun to watch.
And keep in mind, all those penalties we just said, that was just off the opening face-off. That's not accounting for whatever happened at the end. Like I know there was at least one more ejection after that.
Yeah, for sure. Crazy. Redemption, our buddy Johnny jumps in and says the Wild are done. That's good to see.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. Don't have much of a chance at this point.
Also, go check out the fan reaction video from Johnny. He says, shameless plug. There's no shame in plugging your podcast. We're not going to shame you for that. Go check out his fan reaction videos. He does one after every game.
Yep. And
maybe that will help us come down from the ledge. Maybe it'll help me come down from the ledge, because I'm not at the ledge, everybody. All right. I'm not there. I'm fine. I'm a little paranoid. I just wish that they would take care of business and win a game or two. I get it. They lost against the Avs and the Bruins. Very fair and legitimate teams to lose against. But can they ever make things easy? No, they can't. They can't do that. That's not what the Preds do. They're not in that business. I should know this by cheering for this team for 2 decades now, that they never make anything easy. But that's what we're getting into tonight. It's going to be fun. So let's talk about it. I want to get Max's thoughts first on what were the overall takeaways from this game against the Bruins. Defensive struggle, defensive stalemate until the third period. How did you come out of that game? Tell us about it, man.
I mean, pretty frustrated we didn't get the win, but, it wasn't one of those games where, the Bruins just came out, dominated us from start to finish, and we didn't have a chance. It wasn't one of those things where you look at and be like, oh, that winning streak was a fluke. We're just clearly not in the same league as all those contenders. The Preds played a good game overall. The first period kind of felt a little bit out of whack. We were kind of settling in, but after that, really the first 10 minutes of the first period, after that, the Preds played really hard. The effort was certainly there. They were putting body on body. They were going after pucks hard. Both teams were just so physical. It was so hard for either team to get a goal. And it just turned out, it was just honestly one of those games that, someone has to lose, unfortunately. And the Preds ended up on the losing end of things. And, as far as, concerns of the game, I'm really not all that concerned about, even though the team has now lost, 3 straight. I'm not terribly concerned. I'm concerned a little bit, but I'm not, that concerned about, this team's being out of their element. I think if the Preds played the way they played last night, they're going to win 9 games out of 10 that they play pretty much all the time. I will say, though, if there's one area that I came out of last night saying, okay, that needs to get fixed or else, it's that power play. That I hear all concerns there, and that I will not push back to anyone, because the power play, it's back to the days where it's looking like the Preds are better 5-on-5 than the power play. It's not good. That in itself is not good right now.
Yeah, the power play was definitely an issue. 0 for 4 in this game against the Bruins. The Bruins basically bullied the Predators. I mean, the Predators looked frustrated.
And
they could not
goal. That was their first goal of the game.
Yeah, and they couldn't enter the zone. They couldn't get set up. Their passing was just, a little bit off. It looked almost like they were pressing and overthinking things, and that's what a good team does. And you don't see the Bruins very often as a fan of the Predators unless you're watching them play other teams, but when it comes to playing the Predators, you don't see it very often. And you hadn't seen this team since mid-October. So this was very much you didn't know what to expect going into this game. You look at the Bruins, they got a playoff spot locked up. They got big aspirations to win a Stanley Cup. They're very much a Stanley Cup or bust team. And so you go into this game not knowing what kind of effort. We knew they'd play a strong effort. They're not going to lay down for you. But you didn't know exactly if maybe they would have an off night. No, they came to play. The Bruins came to play. Absolutely. And let me just say this. The way that game opened, David Pastrnak was all over UC Saros. And Saros played at the level of a type of goalie that can steal you a playoff series.
Yes. It was not his fault at all last night.
He didn't get credit for the win. He still finished with a .93 save percentage, so his numbers are still really strong, but he didn't get the win. But he played in the type of fashion where he held that together as long as he possibly could, deep into the third period. Just hoping that maybe the Predators could get and the Predators had chances to get the first goal, maybe even get the first two goals. Let's talk about, I hate to bring this up because Roman Josi has been on a Norris Trophy level. He has been unstoppable. He is human. The man's going to make mistakes. I'm not beating him down for this. It happens. But Roman Josi missed the equivalent of missing a wide open layup in a basketball game.
Yes. He did. I mean, it's another thing really else to say. I mean, everyone's going to make mistakes. And, Roman Josi himself, as great of a player as he is, he's not immune to making mistakes like we all are. But, it doesn't change the fact that you got those opportunities, especially in a game like that was yesterday. You got to make them. And he didn't. And that was a critical miss right there. I just remember watching that happen. I was like, hands overhead, like you could not be serious.
I thought it was goal. Like, I already had my hands up. I was already like, that's a goal.
Yeah.
And in a game like this, where it's a defensive stalemate and there's both teams it's a very much a stalemate. I know let's not overlook the fact that the Predators played a really strong defensive game.
Yes, absolutely.
And I want and one very major positive to take away from this loss is the Preds are fully healthy on defense again. They got Alex Carrier back. They've got decisions to make.
They do
with this defense. We've talked about this ad nauseum about how many defensemen they have. It should be to no one's shock that Tyson Barrie, no offense to him, was not in the lineup. But how about Stastny gets in over Fabro? What do you think about that, Max?
I was surprised. I was expecting once everybody got healthy that he was going to go back to Milwaukee, and that honestly might happen again in the next few days. But it's just he does good things. He's fast and he can play the 200-foot game, and I love whenever Stassy's in the lineup. But it's just a logjam on defense right now. I mean,
it is. It's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have. Let's shout out to someone from YouTube. Their name is Joe Mama. Good name. Good
and this is going to sound really weird if it's not that person. I believe that might be my buddy Brent, and he'll comment if it is. But I know he's had a username or something like that in some of his social media handles. So if it's him, shout out for being on the podcast. If it's not him, sorry, that might sound really weird, but I think that might be him right there.
All right. Well, anyway, Joe Mama on YouTube says, we know we had the capacity to beat the big teams from our huge run. Believe in the boys.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
Totally
I love it.
Comment if it is.
Redemption says, great to see Saros bounce back after Arizona last Thursday. We know that about Saros. We know that Saros always bounces back when he has a bad. Good stuff there. Yeah. So I think that Stastny between Stastny and Fabro, that is a really, really difficult decision to make, if you ask me, because both players have pros and cons that outweigh each other. I think Fabro and his veteran experience, I know he's not old, but he's still, we got to remember, Fabro was thrown into the fire very early in his hockey career and played big minutes with PK Subban to start off. You know, we just brought up Subban. So Fabro has been in it. You look at some of the underlying metrics, Fabro has been very, very strong in his defensive metrics and gotten better. His offense isn't there, hasn't really jumped up like you would like, but the dude is a very stable defensive presence. You want that in the playoffs, but Stastny gives you that offensive pop. I saw some of that in the game against Boston last night. But Stastny's inexperienced. He's never played a playoff game. So you've got a really big trade-off to make there. And both players you can make arguments for if you're thinking playoff roster and who you're going to play there. But they have a fully healthy D-Corps now, so that's good to know. It was really awesome to see Alex Carrier and Jeremy Lauzon paired back together. And no shock to anybody, they put together the best defensive metrics against Boston as a pairing last night. So that was awesome to see as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great to get Carrier healthy, and everyone's healthy again. And it's good. And the Preds have been fortunate, and you never know what's going to happen. But the Preds as a team this year have been really fortunate as a whole to not have gotten hit by the injury bug. They've been pretty healthy this year for the most part.
So let's do some explain yourself here.
Yes.
These are tweets that me and Max sent out right after the game last night. We're going to put it on the screen for our YouTube and live viewers on X and Facebook. Let me get mine up first. And this is why everyone's coming at me and saying I'm paranoid. I get it. But I am still very paranoid. I'm very damaged being a fan of this team. So here's what I said right after the game. I said, all those 99% playoff models don't make much sense now. All it took was a 3-game skid. Preds with a couple flat tires just trying to reach the exit ramp. Thursday against Blues should be treated like a play-in game as far as I'm concerned.
Definitely agree with that last sentence. No argument from me there.
Now, is it officially and technically a play-in game? Absolutely not. The Preds could lose that game and still make the playoffs. It's not like it's a win and you're in. But in my mind, in my paranoid mind, and in all of my past damages of being a fan of this team and all the heartbreaks, I cannot trust these 99 and 98% playoff models. I just can't. So that's me explaining myself. Our old co-host and good friend who I've talked to this past week, for all of our listeners who miss Rich Howe, he's doing well. He's doing awesome. Say hi to him, please. This guy, I told him straight up as well. I was like, man, but we used to do explain yourself, and we had fun with it, so we're bringing it back tonight. So explain yourself. I'm explaining to you right now. That tweet is 100% accurate, even 24 hours later after being able to sleep on it. I am still paranoid. I know I got a lot of good fans and a lot of good followers out there who are telling me to calm down. You're overreacting. I get it. But until I see that playoff berth officially locked up, I'm not going to stop being paranoid. But a win against the Blues on Thursday will help a lot. So that's me explaining myself. Right. Max, you want to calm me down a little bit, man?
Well, I'll just kind of dissect that tweet. And, I agree with you as far as, I said this at the beginning of the episode, I don't look at those percentages whenever, I'm evaluating playoff berths or anything, because you never know. All it takes is one game or two for momentum to completely go the other way. And, sports are weird. Momentum can just flip like that. And one time one day you look like you have a great chance, the next day it's all done. We've seen so many and we've seen like a lot of times in sports, even the games themselves, a team has like a 99% chance to win. But a lot of times, like say the Preds are up by like 3 goals in the third period, 99% chance to win. A lot of times I'm still a nervous wreck watching. I think they could blow it. So yeah, I agree as far as the percentages. And like I said, I definitely agree that Thursday's game against the Blues is huge and should be treated like I'll even say a playoff game as far as I'm concerned. That should be a playoff game. I will say though, I don't know about the flat tires comment because they still played really, really hard. It's again, like I say, it's not like situations where you're just being flat out dominated by a better team and it's obvious that the momentum in February and March was a fluke. I still think the Preds still have you better not now what I will say worries me a little bit is you better not think, oh, we played well on Tuesday. We play the same Thursday. We're no problem. No, you still gotta have a fire under your ass to go out there.
Okay. So here's how I would defend that analogy. So a flat tire is not a big deal. If I'm just thinking cars, am I thinking like you're driving down the road, and you have a flat tire? As long as nothing else bad happens after that, you get to the exit ramp and you get those tires replaced, you're good. You're fine. Your car's fine. Everything's good. That's how I look at the Predators right now. Just get those tires replaced. You're fine. It's not a major issue with the vehicle. It's not like a transmission or something like that. It's just like, it's a flat tire. It happens to anybody. It can happen to anybody. It can be a 99% great vehicle. You get a flat tire, it can happen to anybody. So that's how I defend my flat tires analogy there. Well, since we're explaining ourselves. You get to that exit ramp, you're good, man. You get off the interstate, all the danger's over. You get a tow truck, you're fine. That's how I look at the Preds. Just reassess things. It's a 3-game skid. It's not ideal. You would much rather be taking care of business. I saw a post-game interview from Ryan O'Reilly, who basically said, like, look, on the Bally Sports broadcast, who said, look, this is good for us. This is good to have this adversity right now. Now, obviously, Ryan O'Reilly would be honest and say we would rather win that game against Boston, and that was winnable. We would rather win that game against Colorado. That was winnable. We were up 4-2 in the second period. So, but Ryan O'Reilly said, look, this adversity can be good for us. Everyone else is still saying the Preds are basically going to make the playoffs. I get it, but you better fix this issue now before it gets really, really scary. There's still a lot of work to do. 7 games left.
I will say with the flat tire analogy, maybe it's a sort of a personal thing for me because last week I actually dealt with a flat tire on my car for the first time I ever have, and luckily, I'm totally fine. And luckily for me, it was one of those things where I had a nail in my tire and I was about to go to the gym and I kind of pulled it out of the tire because I didn't want to risk it. Of course, the tire completely deflated, so I had to get AAA to come here and get replaced. But anyway, I had to go to the tire shop on Friday to get my spare replaced. And they also discovered that 2 other tires on the car were not great. So we had to pay $500 to get them replaced. It was kind of a pain. It's all fine now. I'm probably being a little dramatic, but I saw that and I'm like, I got flashbacks to last week.
Well, I'm sorry to bring that bad memory. I did not mean to do that, man. I'm so sorry.
It's totally fine.
All right, but
I wasn't on the road or anything, so
and that's good. And there can be times where flat tires are very unsafe. But let's keep the road analogies going because yours kind of has a road analogy in it. All right, so let's have Max Greenberg explain himself. Read your tweet; it's on the screen right now.
Yeah, now 3 straight regulation losses for the Preds after 18 straight games with at least a point. We were still aggressive and competitive against a great team. So I'm not panicking just yet, but Thursday's game just became a must-win. If not, well, buckle up. So the way I kind of see this is like, okay, so based on, so I'll kind of go with the past 3 games of the regulation losses. Thursday against Arizona, bad game. Okay, straight up, not gonna defend that. That was pretty bad. But that was one of those games where we were gonna lose at some point. It's a bad game you're gonna have. That's all you really chalk it up to. Against Colorado, against Colorado, it's against another really, really great team. But it's not like we just got dominated out of the gate. We came out really hard. We were up for a while, but then I'm not trying to say, oh, it's just due to one play, the Preds got screwed over. But after that, after that penalty against McDonough, the major, and he got out 5, and I thought it was a lot of people agreed it was a ridiculous that it was called a major after review. But anyway, playing with 5 defensemen, no McDonough, it really felt like momentum in that game really.
We found, hey, time out real quick. Finish your thought, but I want to say something real quick about that. We found out real quick how vital Ryan McDonough is to this freaking team.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. No, and the defense, it all suffered with them without him there. But anyway, Preds lose that game. And then yesterday, we've talked about yesterday's game, how we felt about that. So all that to say, yes, we've lost 3 straight games. But have they been all games where you're like, oh my God, this team is like really in trouble? I wouldn't say so. So that's why I'm not panicking, because I still believe the momentum is still there. The efforts that we haven't lost any of the swagger or identity, I don't believe, from the winning streak. But tomorrow's game, if you lose that one, well, that changes a lot, because then you're like, again,
it becomes a 4. It becomes a 4-point cushion at that point. And with 6 games left, both teams have the same amount of games left. And let me just say something real quick. Here's why I'm freaked out a little bit. So look, I know that St. Louis is way overperforming there. So everyone wants to fawn over the Predators, and that's fair because the Predators are ahead of schedule. And I'm not trying to be the negative Nancy here and be all like negative. I get accused of that too a lot, but I also get accused by people of being the cheerleader. So which one is it? But either way, let me just look at the Blues for a second. All right. And this is what they're playing hot too. And I don't feel like enough people are talking about them. So the Blues have only lost 1 game in regulation since March 11th.
Dang.
They're 1 regulation loss. No, 2. I'm sorry. 2 regulation losses.
Still.
2 regulation losses since March 11th. And one of those 2 regulation losses is against the Colorado Avalanche, 4-3. Their really ugly regulation loss in that stretch is a 4-0 loss to the San Jose Sharks. So that's their one really ugly blemish. But we're talking about 3-week time span. That's a long time. They lost in overtime to Vegas. They won in a shootout against Minnesota. Some decent wins they've had over that stretch. They don't have any. They beat Edmonton in overtime last night to the chagrin of all Preds fans everywhere.
Yeah, I watched that game.
They beat Boston 5-1 during that stretch. They beat LA 3-1 during that stretch. So, and like I said, they only lost 4-3 to Colorado. So what I'm saying is, don't overlook St. Louis. They've got some guys who can win a game on Thursday if you don't take this seriously. We know that. So it would be different if the Blues were chasing us and they just were kind of like a team that just didn't have decent players and they were just kind of finding some good things that were happening for them. But St. Louis is a team that's also way ahead of schedule, just like the Predators are.
Yeah. So
you got to take this very seriously.
And I'll finish what I was saying. What I'm saying with, Thursday being a must win, and obviously if say the Preds lose tomorrow in regulation to the Blues, you're still 4 points ahead. And, based on how, the law of averages plays out in a sport like hockey, it's likely that, the Preds are going to probably still finish ahead of them just based on where things are and how things are going to go. But if you lose that game, well, then number one, you've lost 4 in a row. And I don't care at that point. I don't care what the reasons are, the excuses, whatever. If you lost 4 in a row, then there's alarm bells sounding. That's just reality of that. And also based on how momentum flips, because then the Preds are in a situation like, they're really on our tail against a team that's really playing well.
And here's my thing. Let's look at their remaining schedule after the Blues. Then you get the Islanders, who are desperate in a playoff hunt right now. Nothing, and it's on the road. Then you go to New Jersey, who, even if New Jersey is pretty much most likely going to miss the playoffs, they're not an easy team to beat. Then you get the Winnipeg Jets at home. I mean, I'm not trying to say this is all going to happen. I'm rooting for it, but yeah, you can call me paranoid all you want, but all I'm seeing is that the Preds better figure this out quick. They better start connecting on the power play more, and
Yeah.
and you can be close all you want. You can be like, oh, we were just off. We fought hard. We played well against a good team. That doesn't matter in hockey. You don't get brownie points. You don't get all that stuff. Like you lose, you lose. That's all that matters. The Blues keep winning. The Preds have lost 3 in a row. That's facts. That's why I'm worried. And I look at the next, after even the Blues, I look at the next 3 opponents. You're looking at teams that are, 2 of those teams are out of a playoff race, but technically they're right there. They're playoff caliber. And then you get Winnipeg Jets. And then your last 3 games are against games you think you should win as well. But my point is, hockey is so unpredictable, you can never go off what's on paper. So the Preds need to figure it out quick.
Yeah. And they
can't coast. You cannot coast is my point. You cannot coast.
And I'll say, if it was a situation where the Preds were playing like another team that wasn't quite in the situation the Blues are, I'd be a little worried at 4 in a row. But then at least I could be like, okay, that was against a team that had nothing to do with the Preds at this point. And, it's not really impacting the playoff race. But no, like this, like it directly impacts the playoff race. And if it goes against you the worst way it can, you better watch out. And you know what? And I'll say, what that gives me flashbacks to, and not the exact same circumstances. You're not fighting for a division title or anything, but it kind of gives me flashbacks to the 2022 Tennessee Titans when they had the AFC South all but won. They literally had to just win 1 game or so. Like, let me tell you this. I remember being at a Titans game I want to say 13, whatever it was. If the Titans would have won that game, they clinched the AFC South. And there's 4 weeks left in the year. But they lost that game. And then they end up losing the rest of the season. The Jacksonville Jaguars won out, I believe. And then the Titans lost the division. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah. And let's look at this too. Just looking at the schedules. So let's look at the Blues after they play the Preds on Thursday. Let's look at the Blues' remaining schedule. At San Jose, you would think that they would get retribution and beat the San Jose Sharks there. At Anaheim, another dead duck team that's out of it. Chicago. So their next 3 games are very likely either wins or they get points. At the very least, they get points in those games. Then they play Carolina. Now you're getting to the part of the regular season towards the end where even the really good teams might be resting players. They might be content with where they're at. You're looking at a team like Carolina. Their playoff spot's already locked up. Do they rest players who are banged up? You got to think about that. Then St. Louis plays Seattle. They're eliminated. Last game of the season, they play at Dallas, but we don't know if Dallas is going to be resting players at that point. Right. So my point is, St. Louis, if they somehow beat the Preds on Thursday, they've got a very, very favorable schedule for them. Whereas the Preds, they're much more, I think the pressure's more on the Blues. They can't slip up. But like, this is not as dead set as people seem to make it.
I would argue the pressure's kind of on the Preds because if the Blues miss the playoffs, it's like, okay, at least they weren't that far in it. They could, but if the Preds miss the playoffs, that is a monumental collapse. Like that,
after the Blues, the Preds, their first game is against a playoff desperate team, so it's going to feel like another playoff game. The Preds are playing playoff type games back to back to back. I mean, they're playing teams who are still, I don't know how close the Devils will still be at that point. They might be pretty much eliminated by that time. But my point is, the Preds, after the Blues, still have 3 more opponents right after that. It could end up being a scenario where the Blues win their next 3 and the Preds stay on a skid. And then you have a scenario where the last 2 games of the regular season could shape who makes the playoffs between the Blues and the Preds. All I'm trying to say is it's not that cut and dry as people are making it seem. Yes, the Preds are in the driver's seat. Yes, they're in a very great position. You would rather be in the Preds position than the Blues position right now. I get that. It's way more favorable. But Yeah. I'm not convinced right now. You gotta stop this quick. If you beat the Blues on Thursday, then you're feeling really good. You're feeling really strong. You're feeling like, okay,
You still better not take
even
that foot off the gas.
you got your 6 point. Yeah, you're in a great spot then. So we'll see what happens. But that's my point there. I'm sticking to it. Maybe I hope I'm paranoid. I hope that ends up being what it is, because the way I feel about the Predators is if they are the type of team that if they can sneak in, they can do damage, but they have to get in first. That's kind of how I feel about them.
Yeah, he doesn't. And yeah, I mean, especially with what the Preds did at the trade deadline, you better make the playoffs. You got no choice.
Oh, I'm not looking forward to that. But here's the thing: even if they lose in the first round, people are going to be critical of that trade deadline decision. It goes way past that.
I would say it kind of depends how you lose, but nonetheless, your point, I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So obviously, major matchup coming up on Thursday. We wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, that's why we love hockey. So with that said, let's talk about perfect segue. Let's talk about our top players who need to step up in these last 7 games.
Yeah.
And we already know, okay, yeah, of course, you need Yossi to step up. You need Saros to step up. Let's get a little less at the top. Let's dive deeper into this lineup a little bit. Max, how about you throw us one? Who's someone who you're really pinpointing that you're like, I'm looking at this player who needs to step up?
It's not one. It's not for me. It's not exactly one player, but I think it's 2 groups of players on this team that you really got to get strong performances for. Because let me say, we know the top line is doing their thing, and I don't expect them to slow down. Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist. The fourth line is still, they got to do well, but you're not going to really win games with your fourth line. Obviously, you got Yossi. Obviously, you got Saros. Yes, we get all that, but the 2 groups of players that I'm really, really watching closely are the guys on the second and third line. Zucker, Sissons, Glass, Jankowski, Novak, Evangelista, your secondary scoring. And here's the thing with this Preds team. The Preds over the years have seemed to it's when they've had secondary scoring and depth, the first line has not been that powerful and not been strong enough to make a deep playoff run. Or when they've had it, or go back to like the 2022 or 2021-22 season, you have a really, really good first line. But because your secondary scoring is essentially non-existent, there's not much you can do. And of course, there's other reasons, but still, this Preds team, you need both things clicking. And I don't really expect the first line to slow down, but you need your secondary scoring to keep the foot on the gas. Because I think that's what's really if you can get both first line scoring and second line scoring, you're gonna do good things, hopefully. And again, like I say, I don't really worry about the first line as much, but your middle 6 lines have to play really. I think that's going to be the X factor.
Yes. So going back to the Boston game last night, I thought that Evangelista and Novak had a pretty good game with what was thrown at them defensively. I mean, that was a great test for them.
I thought second line did too, honestly.
They did what they could. I mean, one play I'm thinking of in particular that very well could have been a goal. It was just a little bit off. And that was, if you remember, Max, I can't remember exactly what point in the game it was, but it was before Boston scored. But it was one of the very few odd man rushes the Preds had on the night. And it started off with Novak. Novak found Evangelista. Evangelista found Ryan O'Reilly, who had an open net, but his stick got tied up.
I don't remember that for some reason.
He couldn't get a full shot on it, even, in real time, in fast time. I thought that Ryan O'Reilly got the shot off and Ullmark made the save, but when it slowed down in slow-mo replay, his stick was tied up. He just couldn't really get his stick on the puck, but it was a brilliant pass from Evangelista, and it was a great setup and dissecting of the play from Novak. And so one of the things about this team that's kind of a strength and a weakness sometimes, and it's the players you're talking about, is sometimes they overpass. Sometimes they are a little bit too unselfish.
I thought they did that in the third period of the game against Colorado.
I mean, sometimes you just have to take the shot. I mean, sometimes you just have to make the goalie make a save, which gets thrown around. I know it's cliche, but make the goalie make the save. But on this particular play, I actually think that it was just a split second off from being a goal for Ryan O'Reilly. So that was one instance. I think that's a great thing, guys that need to step up. That can really unlock the full potential in these last 7 games. I agree with that, but I'm going to go a little bit different. I'm going to go on the defensive side of things, and I'm going to definitely go with Lauzon and Carrier pairing because we know what we're going to get from Yossi. We know what we're going to get from McDonough, and we don't expect them to dip at all. That's just not going to happen. So Jeremy Lauzon, let's start with him first. He has been one of the best comeback story, not even a comeback story. He's just been a coming out story. He's really elevated his game. Yeah. So can he keep that up? Can he continue to be the wrecking ball? He drew a penalty on Pasternak in this game against Boston early in the game.
Retaliation penalty. That's what we love to see.
His skating is way better than anyone realized. I mean, going into the season, everyone thought Jeremy Lauzon was just some big guy that just hits people. It's like, no, this guy actually is a pretty good skater.
No,
like he's a really
more, like every part of his game is even his IQ is so much better. Like everything about it. Like honestly, I honestly describe this is maybe a funny way to say, but almost like a responsible wrecking ball because he's making smart plays when he's out there.
So exactly. So in the last 7 games, Carrier's back in the lineup. Putting Carrier and Lauzon back together is amazing and awesome. They led the team in expected goals against as a pairing last night. So having them back together, I'm watching those two. I think that the Preds are going to have to win this in very gritty fashion to secure this playoff berth in the last 7 games. They're going to have to continue to play really, really strong, disciplined defense like they did against Boston and against other teams. They're going to the way they played against Boston. I'm on full board. I've seen some people put that out there today on X, and I totally agree. The way the Preds played defensively against Boston is going to win them a lot of games in normal
and even offensively too.
But you know what? Sometimes you play a great game and you still lose. That's called hockey. It happens. It's not fair. It sucks, but it happens. Yeah. I don't think the game was it was a great. The officiating was as perfect as you could ask it to be.
Yeah, I also do.
So there's no way that either side can say, "Oh, well, this call screwed us over." No, it was a very well officiated game. It was a defensive stalemate, a defensive struggle, and the Preds were a few bounces here and there away from at least getting 1 goal, maybe even 2. Ullmark played a Vezina style of hockey when he had to.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, as good as that Bruins defense was, Ullmark too was unbelievable.
And you just wonder if Yossi buries that one open net goal and the Preds have the lead in the second period, how does that change the momentum? How does that change the Bruins' approach to the game if they're trailing 1-0 going into the third period? And then, of course, the shorthanded goal is a backbreaker. It hurts you.
Yeah.
But, it happens, man. Saros played great. But I'm looking at Lauzon, Carrier as my 2 players. Not saying they haven't stepped up already, but I'm looking them to really step up in these last 7 games. When you have 2 defensive pairings that are that strong, it gives you such a crazy advantage over a lot of teams.
Oh, yeah.
Most teams have really good top defensive pairings, but when you have a really, really strong second defensive pairing
or third,
but everyone's still so critical of Luke Shen. Yeah. And I know he is what he is, but no, it's for me, it's Carrier, Lauzon. I love they're back together. I want to see them step up in these last 7 games and take us home.
More so than any one player. And of course, I won't go too far down this rabbit hole because we've talked about it on this episode, but the power play's got to get better. It just does.
It does. I mean, and I said this weeks ago. That was my top concern for this team.
You did.
Going, when I wrote that article, I was focusing more on the inconsistency. I was focusing on the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys. And yes, this power play's had a lot of peaks during this season, but they've had a lot of valleys. And if they decide to hit a valley, first of all, let's get in the playoffs first. But if they make the playoffs and they go up against a Colorado or a Dallas or whoever it is, and they decide to hit a valley in their power play, they're not going to win a 7-game series. It's not going to happen.
Even Andrew Burnett, like yesterday for the game, I saw a quote, and he pretty much said, like, it's been an all-year thing they've been trying to get. And they said that maybe they're not fast enough or whatever, but he said, like, he said he doesn't think it's like a new thing. He said it's been going on all year. So hopefully they can get it fixed. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things that has to get better.
All right, so that's our players. Tell us in the comments. Let's see who we got here. Also, if you're listening later after the live telecast, you can always still tweet us at Catfish Ice and tell us who your players are. Or if you're watching on YouTube, comment on the stream. Let us know who are your players that you really want to see step up in these last 7 games. All right, we still got some more to get into on episode 227 of Catfish and Ice, presented by DraftKings and part of Hockey Podcast Network, with Chad Minton and Max Greenberg, your host. We're going to tell you about our DraftKings offer right now. Looking for a super offer right now with the hockey playoffs here coming soon. A lot to get into with that, with bonus bets. So, Max, we got some big matchups coming up tomorrow night. We're about to talk about some playoff odds and predictions with that as well. But we've got some bonus bets going on right now with DraftKings. $200 in bonus bets is what we got offered for you right now with our latest offer. We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. With code THPN, new customers bet just $5 on the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook. With code THPN, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-78-97-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024. All rights reserved. I'm going to pull up the DraftKings odds for Thursday's hockey action. Of course, we got the Preds taking on the Blues. So let's tell you what DraftKings has for that one first. As we get to that, right now, the current DraftKings odds has the Predators as a minus 192 favorite. So pretty strong favorite there for DraftKings. The Avalanche are at the Minnesota Wild, with the Avalanche being the road favorites. Let me see some other matchups that really stick out to me tomorrow. The Boston Bruins at the Carolina Hurricanes. That could have some implications out east. And they got the Carolina Hurricanes as minus 148 favorites against the Bruins at home. And we're about to tell you our top 5 Stanley Cup contenders as well. The Flames are at the Jets, with the Jets being heavy favorites against the playoff boundless Calgary Flames. And the Kings are at the San Jose Sharks, and the Kings could not be bigger favorites to the poor San Jose.
They got to win too.
But sometimes people like to take those crazy bets because it's a bigger payout. So the Sharks are one of those teams that just randomly like beat good teams out of nowhere. So do that with what you will, but not the best matchups tomorrow. I feel like the Blues and the Predators are going to be center stage for the NHL landscape tomorrow in terms of implications for the playoffs. So get ready for that. Should be fun. All right, Max. I'm going to put up your top 5 Stanley Cup contenders first on the screen. You're going to explain them. And you haven't even seen mine yet.
No, I've not.
I got to see yours first.
Yeah, sure did.
Unfair advantage for me. All right, so it's about to be on the screen. Again, if you're listening on our podcast platforms, you can't see our graphics. That's why you got to watch us on YouTube and hit subscribe so you can see all these graphics I worked so hard on. All right. Max, you got to explain yourself here again. Yeah. Let me get them on the screen there. There it is. Yep. There's your top 5 contenders. Let me get our banner off the screen so you can read it better. There it is. Max's top 5 cup contenders. Let me read them real quick before you explain it. So Max has got number 1, the New York Rangers. Number 2, the Boston Bruins. Number 3, the Canucks. Number 4, the Avalanche. And number 5, the Hurricanes. All right, break down your list. Give me your reasoning for this.
Yeah, as far as, the Rangers, it seems like it's finally the year they're kind of putting it together. I don't know what it's going to mean for the playoffs, but they've got from top to bottom, they got star power on the offense, depth, and they got guys at the deadline. Defense, obviously, really strong, and you got a world-class goaltender in Igor Shesterkin. I mean, again, just top to bottom, I don't think there's a team that, if just pure roster advantage, I don't think that there's a team right now that I really trust more than a team that's, and again, the Canucks are, and maybe some other teams could be argued as far as, to roster talent, but the Rangers have been, they've been a team for a while that's, been in the thick of things, and it just seems like it'd be their time about now. So, that's who I would have as my number 1. The Bruins, people might laugh a little bit just because we played them last night, and, I'm going to be little prisoner of the moment.
I don't think it's overreaction.
I don't think so either, because if you look at, again, that's it. Maybe they're not quite on the level of the Rangers, especially offensively, but again, they are insanely tough to score on. Their defense and goaltender, that's always how they've won, and they're still continuing to do it. Again, you have guys like Pasternak and Brad Marchand. There's really not much of a weakness on that team.
They're playoff tested. They are playoff tested. Yeah. I trust a team with players like that more than I trust a team that's not been there. I mean, I know that's not always, that doesn't always mean that that's how it's going to end up, but just preconceived notions for me, I'm going to trust a team that's been there and battle tested in the Stanley Cup playoffs in the past, maybe more so than a team that hasn't been there and done it, because it's just so much different.
Yeah. And okay, actually, I gotta make a confession. For my number 3 pick, I did not honestly realize that. Okay, he's back on the ice, so I can get it. But I did not. Again, full disclosure, I did not realize Thatcher Demko was injured.
He's been out for a little bit, man. Come on,
I see he's back on the ice, so probably go back to the probably back on the playoffs. So.
He's been out since early March. He's been out since early March.
I fully admit I did not realize that. But
we can't follow. We have busy lives, man. We can't follow every team.
Yeah,
like it's our full-time job. So
healthy,
I give you a break on that one.
If they're healthy and he gets back and he's playing at a high level, okay, that one's more of if it all comes through. But if they get healthy, the Canucks, with their roster again. I will say, though, they're not really battle-tested. They haven't really been there, and it's their first, and they kind of came out of nowhere. But if they can get healthy and they get the same production from top to bottom, then I would still have them as number 3. My number 4 is the Avalanche, and again,
I cannot believe you put the Canucks ahead of the Avalanche. I am shocked, man. Come on.
Yeah, well,
I respect your list, but.
Well, I might have I might have changed it if I was really more fully aware of the Demko injury, but also the main reason I didn't put the Avalanche are playing really well right now, and what they did at the deadline, they have they have more depth now, and again they're battle tested and all that. But again, this was thinking that Thatcher Demko was healthy, but in net, I would trust Thatcher Demko a little more than I would trust Alexander Georgiev.
Yeah.
So that's where I was having a difference there. And I also say,
Understood.
this isn't necessarily my predictions who's going to win the cup because there's all kinds of
No.
matchup stuff like that. This
You're
is
doing your
not saying
top
who I
five.
think is going all the way necessarily.
Yeah, you're doing your top five. I get it.
This is just top five. But again, I can't not have the Avalanche up there. They got all that experience. They've done really well in the month of March, so they're going to be in my top five. And number five, I figured the Hurricanes might be the most surprising one there. But I just love I have so much respect for that. And again, Preds fans probably I'm in the minority, and Preds fans not hating the Carolina Hurricanes, but but I've loved this team style over the years. I like Rod Brindamore a lot. He's a great coach. That team's always finding a way to be in the thick of things, and also. But a big reason why I have them up there is because last year they went to the conference finals. Although they got swept, they were super injured last year. And as far as I can tell, this year, at least I know Andrei Svechnikov is there, and at least everybody else, like they have a better roster this year at this moment than what they had go into the playoffs last year. But the reason I can't put them above number five, and it seems to always be that way for them, their goaltending. I just can't trust it.
Yeah, I mean, Antti Ranto was supposed to be the guy, and he's just like an afterthought now.
I mean, Anderson came back, but like
what you wonder about the Hurricanes is can their elite scoring and their fast-paced offense and everything can that overcome? Historically speaking, teams that don't have good. Historically speaking, teams that don't have solid goaltending don't win the Stanley Cup. I mean, there's outliers. But most teams that win a Stanley Cup usually have a really, really good goaltender. So,
I mean, I will say,
the Hurricanes could be a difference.
Now that it's kind of shifting more towards speed and skill and a little less toward goaltending. But and again, we still have to have it adequately. But man, the Hurricanes, if they can at least stay sturdy, and I did just look it up, they are pretty much healthy except for like Jesper Foss. So like they're again so much healthier than they were last year. They're deep offensively, and just the way they play. I think they're going to be a big threat yet again.
All right. So our list is, I love this. This is good. Our list is a little different, man.
I know one team you're going to have. Oh, yep. I knew it. The number one.
So I don't get swayed very often, but look, I'm very Central Division heavy, top heavy here. So here is my top five cup contenders. I got Dallas number one. There's a lot of people sleeping on them. I know that they've cooled off. They are still in the driver's seat to win the Central Division. It's looking like maybe the Preds play the Stars in the first round. I've been very, very adamant when I say that I think the Stars are deeper than the Avalanche. I think that lines 1 through 4 are better than the Avalanche. Maybe the Avalanche are a little bit top heavier than the Stars, but either way, we're talking 1A, 1B on my list.
I can get behind that.
So a Stars Avalanche series would be just a war. I mean, seriously.
Probably going to happen, honestly.
So my number one is Stars. My number two is Avalanche for my top five cup contenders. My number three is Bruins. And again, just like Max said, I'm not trying to be prisoner of the moment here. Maybe I would have even had them behind the Rangers before last night, but I got to watch them against my team. I don't watch every Bruins game, full disclosure. But I watched them last night, and they impressed me. They really did. The Bruins are, I mean, because you're talking about a red-hot Preds team that did everything they could. They threw the kitchen sink at the Bruins to just try to score one goal. I was very impressed with how the Bruins played that game against the Predator. And it's not just that. They've been doing this for a long time. They're well coached with Jim Montgomery. They've got Pasternak, who is elite level. They've got Marchand. They've got Allmark. They've got Swayman if they have to switch to him. And and they've got a great defense too. I mean, it's just they are stacked. They are deep as well. So I put them at number three. I put the Rangers number four. Max had the Rangers number one. We're not far off.
I can't believe you have the Rangers at number four. That I find crazy.
Okay. And then number five, I think that's
a curveball.
That's my hot take. But look,
that's
listen,
a
guys,
hot take right there.
And I'm not saying that because I live down here, guys. I mean, a lot of the longtime listeners know that I live in the Tampa Bay area. I've even been accused of being a Tampa Bay defector. And then I'm suddenly a Lightning fan. Okay. We know that's not true. I've already went to a couple Lightning games repping my Preds jersey, so I'm definitely not a Lightning fan. I do have to watch them a lot more down here now and interact with their fans a lot more. But I will say the Lightning are kind of the Preds equivalent in the Eastern Conference right now. They have been hovering around that wild card bubble
with a few more Stanley Cups, but still.
But I'm just talking about this current season. They've been hovering around the wild card bubble all year. A lot of people expected the Lightning to take a massive step back. Maybe they were still a playoff team. They probably had higher preseason expectations than the Predators, but a lot of people fully expected the Lightning to move out of that dynasty window, move out of that Stanley Cup window, and take a really major step back. And they've been getting hot lately. They've been getting hot. It hasn't just – Nikita Kucherov has carried that team for very much of the season. I saw a very interesting stat, and now I don't have it in front of me anymore. I wish I would have bookmarked it. But basically, Nikita Kucherov has – I'll try to find it real quick. But Nikita Kucherov has the highest point differential from the second-place player on his team in a very, very long time in the NHL. Like it's very, here it is right here so this is from Mike Kelly, hockey analyst for NHL Network. So here is what he said today. Nikita Kucherov enters play tonight with a 45-point lead over his next highest scoring.
I am seeing that now. Wow.
45 points.
And it's not even like the next guy is doing it's Braden Point with 83 points, 74 games. It's not like they're just scrubs. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the third highest gap, largest gap in the salary cap era. Now, what's really interesting is last year, David Pastrnak had 113 points and a 46-point difference over the Bruins' second-place player, which was Brad Marchand at 67 points. So it did happen last season. But overall, in the salary cap era, this is very, very rare territory to see your leading scorer have such a major gap over your next place scorer. So Nikita Kucherov's got 127 points. It's going to be – I mean, he's a very hated player outside of the Tampa Bay circle. But – the guy has a really good chance to maybe win the Hart Trophy. We'll see. That'll be a contested voting. But it's fun to see the Hart Trophy up for grabs like that. It usually is just a foregone conclusion that it's going to be either Austin Matthews or Connor McDavid. But this year, Nikita Kucherov, Nathan McKinnon, they're putting up arguments. So I got the Lightning. I'm sorry. Vasilevsky has had a very down year. Much like UC Saros, very different style goaltenders, I'll say that. But Vasilevsky has also had a very underperforming and down year to his standards, much like UC Saros has had. But let's not forget that Vasilevsky is a world-class top 3 goaltender in this world. Don't take one season where he was injured to start the season.
Yeah, and had to probably something to do with that a little bit.
Had to shake off some rust. I'm telling you, Vasilevsky is fully capable of carrying the Lightning further than maybe they should go in the playoffs, pull off a first-round upset. And then when you take on the elite talent that the Lightning already still have, they lost a lot of players recently. But they still got Kucherov. They still got Point. They still got Hedman. They still got some good role players. They still got our boy Tanner Jeannot.
Yep.
I'm just saying, do not sleep on the Lightning. Now, here's some teams that aren't on my list that are definitely a hot take, and I could end up eating my words over this if they end up going deep. The Canucks aren't on my list. Let me tell you why. I don't trust them. They're not – they've had a great – how many teams have we seen in this history that have had great regular seasons and they choke in the playoffs?
A lot.
I could end up eating my words, and I'll gladly eat them if it happens, but I do not trust the Vancouver Canucks. Edmonton Oilers aren't in my top 5.
They weren't in mine either.
I would put the Oilers in my top 5 before the Canucks. That's how much I don't trust the Canucks.
I thought about the Oilers. They honestly probably would have been my 6th team. They just didn't make the cut for me.
I don't have the Maple Leafs in my top 5 either.
Yeah, don't worry about that one.
Here's one that I actually battled with. I'm kind of like torn about not putting the Florida Panthers in my top 5.
The other one, but they are slumping now.
But that's the one where I feel like I could be screwing up, and maybe I should put the
Panthers. One of the other. It was definitely for me. It was definitely Edmonton and Florida. I think we're gonna, and I'd have to throw Dallas in that mix, but probably those 3 teams were, and also because we know how good they are when they're healthy, and they'll probably magically get healthy. The Vegas Golden Knights.
No, it's not their year. But we'll see. Like I said, they're going to get healthy. They're playing the LTIR.
Probably not.
Is Mark Stone really going to make them that? I mean, yeah, he's a world-class great player, but he makes them better, but I don't know. And
Tomas Hertl still hasn't played a game for them. Granted, but it would probably take a little bit of time for the chemistry to mesh, and in the playoffs, you don't want to be dealing with that.
Yeah, so it's tough to narrow it down to top 5. That's really hard. That's why that was a fun segment. If there's one team I'm a little torn on that I didn't put in my top 5, it would probably be the Florida Panthers. But we'll revisit that list as we get deep into the playoffs and see how right we were or how wrong we were. But
probably the latter. At least for me, I'll probably be wrong.
It's okay. It's always fun when you're wrong. All right, so we have a couple other things to get into. So it's been a great episode 227 of Catfish on Ice. We're going to break down what's going on in the playoff race right now a little bit more. We've already talked a lot about the Preds, but Max, how about you talk about, we just kind of alluded to it with Stars and Avalanche battling for the Central. I want to throw this out there. How important is the Central Division really in the grand scheme of things when you look at it? I mean,
as far as like winning it?
Because you're playing for home ice, but like, when it comes to your first round matchup, it's like, would you rather play Vegas or Nashville most likely in the first round, or would you rather play Winnipeg in the first round as the second place team?
You honestly
and get Connor Hellebuck, which
Winnipeg's also one of those teams that's been slumping recently. So like that also, and they haven't really, and since their 1 year where they made it to the Western Conference Final, they haven't done much. So like, Winnipeg might be a team that could be a favorable matchup based on how they're trending. But that it still very much looks like that. As far as Central Division, it looks like it's going to be a fight between Colorado and Dallas for that top spot. Winnipeg doesn't really seem to be much in that conversation anymore because of how their march has gone. But
so all three top 3 teams in the Central Division right now have an equal amount of games played, 75 games. So no advantage there in games in hand. You got Dallas at 103 points, Colorado at 100 points, and Winnipeg at 96. So all it takes is one team to hit a losing skid, and you can leapfrog. So we can't count Winnipeg out just yet as far as moving up to second. But either way, Winnipeg's going to be in that 2-3 matchup most likely. So it's a matter of, does Colorado catch Dallas for the Central Division lead? And then it could be Dallas, Winnipeg in the first round. And then Colorado would take on the Preds possibly. But you look at Vancouver in the Pacific Division, they got 100 points. So they're still trying to play for the top seed in the Western Conference. So that's still up for grabs as well. But
they could. Edmonton's kind of on their heels. They got 2 games in hand. 5 points is not all huge.
That's why this is so awesome, man. Even teams who have playoff spots locked up still have so much to play for.
Yeah. If Vancouver somehow managed to lose that first place spot in the Pacific, that would it would definitely make me feel stupid for thinking they were that high in my contending list.
Call me crazy, but just thinking about the Preds, I kind of would like to see Vancouver in the first round. So much disrespect. I
kind of would too.
So much disrespect. So much disrespect on this podcast right now.
Because we said that if we play, they'll probably beat us.
so much disrespect going towards Vancouver. We're going to eat our words over this. We're going to be eating some humble pie in a couple weeks. But
hey, I had them on my list, so I'm not going.
Oh yeah, I'm the one.
Not as much.
I'm the one that's really going to be eating it. But no, I'm just. But it's so fun. I mean, you look at the standings. We're this late in the season, 7 games left, and there's this much uncertainty.
Oh yeah,
with the entire standings. I mean, there's really no one who is just like
nobody's clinched their division yet.
Nobody can be in cruise control right now. Could you ask for a better scenario if you're the NHL right now when it comes to must-watch games? There's no meaningless games right now in this league.
Yeah, not one. And the spots won't be clinched for a good bit more because look at not just the fact that these divisions are not locked up. Look how close it is. Boston, Florida, and the Atlantic, just a 4-point difference. New York, the Rangers, Carolina, only 5-point difference.
3 points now.
Dallas, Colorado, 3-point difference. Vancouver, Edmonton, we just talked about 5-point difference, and Edmonton's got 2 games in hand.
And how about the Eastern Conference wildcard race? You got Washington and Detroit tied at 82 points. Washington has the tie.
Pittsburgh is creeping up there.
Washington has the tiebreaker because they've got an extra game in hand, but Detroit has done everything they can to just like give it away and not make the playoffs this year. But it's so hilarious. So all these teams that are trying to make the playoffs, you look at Washington, Detroit, Islanders, Penguins, hell, even Buffalo is only 5 points back. They've only got 6 games left. So
teams in the East that are like truly out of it at this point are, and I'm pretty sure they're eliminated, which they not mathematically actually, it'd be Montreal and Ottawa there, and then of course Columbus is mathematically.
I mean, look at this wild card race. You got the Devils, Sabres, Penguins, Islanders, Red Wings, Capitals. They are all legitimately still alive to get in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I want to read a tweet from Pete Blackburn, who's a really great follow, always puts out hilarious stuff. Let me share what he said about the Eastern Conference playoff race that I just thought was so funny. Gotta scroll back a little bit. Dang, Pete, you are tweeting a lot lately. But he basically said that the way the Eastern Conference is going right now, if you put here's what he said. So here's what Pete Blackburn tweeted about the Eastern Conference playoff race right now. If you put the Caps, Pens, Red Wings, and Isles in a room with one knife and told them only one team leaves, they'd all take turns just stabbing themselves.
God.
And that's referencing the fact that recently Washington lost, Penguins lost, Islanders lost. Catch the playoff fever. So yeah,
I got a buddy who's a Red Wings fan. He was actually in town for the Red Wings Preds game, and he's not thrilled with how the Red Wings have been kind of torpedoing in the past month.
And I am on I'm full disclosure. I want to see the Red Wings make the playoffs. I would
like it too, honestly.
So let's put it on the screen. This is from NHL Network real quick. So our viewers on X and Facebook and YouTube can see it visually from NHL Network. The Eastern Conference playoff race, which is a lot tighter than the Western Conference right now. There you have it. So Flyers, 83 points, 6 games remaining. And they even have strength of schedule up there to give you a little bit more idea of who's got the tough road ahead. So if you're just going off that, the Devils are really in trouble. Whereas the Islanders have the 22nd strength of schedule, and they are only 3 points back of the Capitals. I mean, take your pick right now. Who gets that? Who gets the 2 wild card spots, Max? Because the Flyers aren't in it either. The Flyers could fall out.
The Flyers, I believe, are third place in the Metro right now. So that's also something to take note of.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm. Let me take a look in the app. I'm pretty
The
sure that's the
standings
case.
are
Well,
so fluid right now. It's like
yeah,
you
the
literally have
Flyers,
to
but
just.
again, that as far as who I think, obviously it looks well. Actually, not even obviously.
Yeah, you're right.
Gosh.
You're right, Max. Real quick. Yeah, Max, you're right. This is not completely updated, this tweet.
Yeah.
The Flyers are third in
No, I think
the.
that's updated. It's just the way it looks is. Wait, is it updated? No, it's not fully updated. Never mind. Whatever it is, my prediction as
It's
far
close
as
enough.
whatever it is, my prediction as far as those final spots, I'm gonna, something. Okay, I'm gonna say, man, I don't know what to choose here. This is hard.
Time out real quick. I think this NHL Network graphic is not taking into account who's where in terms of wild card or division.
That's the biggest thing with
I
it.
think
Because
they're just ranking the teams because I'm looking at the standings and this graphic matches the standings right now. So I think that it's just the way that graphic is laid out. It's not indicating who's wild card and who's not.
Yeah.
Because Tampa is a wild card team, even though they've got 6 more points than the Flyers.
Yeah.
But they're in a much
points actually, but yeah.
but they're in a much more difficult division.
Right.
So
Okay, you know
I
what?
mean it's
I'm gonna say my predictions, and I'm just gonna go just off gut. I'm gonna say the Red Wings make it. I think they're a fun, exciting team, and I think more so than a lot of these other teams that maybe the Devils, but they're pretty far behind. I think they're gonna find a way to claw their way back in, and I'm gonna say, much to the chagrin of everyone in the league, but they're hot right now. I'm gonna say the Penguins find a way to get that other wild
I'd
card
be so
spot.
mad about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be happy, but I think it's gonna happen because we can't have nice things.
Okay, I'm gonna go. Let me look at the standings again.
It's hard, isn't it?
It's really hard. It's ridiculous, actually. This is what's so great about hockey. All right, let me look at the wild card standings here again. Man, so Philly is currently third place in the Metro with 83 points, but they're only 1 point ahead of Washington. They're only 1 point ahead of Detroit. One of those, so two of these teams in the Metro are going to make the playoffs. So because one of those teams is going to get the third place spot. So I'm not going to bet against a John Tortorella team in this
Fair
point.
enough.
So I'm going to take the Flyers.
They might stay in third in that metropolitan spot. So
I think the Flyers will hold on to at least a wild card spot. So it really comes down to who comes up behind them. The Capitals have been a really good story. They have been right up there with the Preds as far as a surprise story of the league. But I am going to go with the Red Wings.
Okay.
I'm going to go Red Wings wild card. Flyers hold on to the third place spot. Capitals, who are currently residing in that wild card spot, are going to fall out. So I'm going Red Wings and Lightning as your wild card teams, and the Flyers get that third place spot in the Metro.
I forgot the Lightning are wild card teams. My predictions are kind
they're
of
they're a wild card team. Even though they've got 89 points, they're still a wild card team because they're in a much more.
I forgot about the
division.
Lightning. They're pretty much a foregone conclusion at this point.
Yeah. All right. Let's do one more prediction. We're putting them all out there. President's Trophy. Max, make your pick.
I'm gonna say the Rangers hang on. I'm gonna go pretty confident on that one. I think the Rangers are gonna hang on.
Okay, let's tell you how close the President's Trophy race is right here. Another just not that it really matters when it comes to who wins the Stanley Cup, and of course we know about the President's Trophy curse, but this is just for fun. This is how close the President's Trophy race is. So. Just based on your teams that have already officially clinched a playoff spot, you've got the Rangers, the Stars, the Bruins, the Hurricanes, the Canucks, the Avalanche, and the Panthers. That's 7 teams. Those 7 teams are within 5 points of each other for the President's Trophy. 7 teams who have a chance for a President's Trophy. That's pretty fun. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So you took the Rangers. You took the Rangers.
Yeah,
I'm going to go Boston.
Okay.
I'm going to go
little,
Boston.
but I think the Rangers hang on to it.
So, all right. So the Rangers are at 104. I'm going Boston. Prisoner of the moment, but I'm going Boston to win the President's Trophy.
All right.
So fun stuff. Anything else we missed, Max?
No, I mean, well, as far as, we probably do our Titans sign, but there's not really been much Titans news since the last time we've had a podcast. So
we got the cornerback. We got the cornerback Snead.
Oh, well, we already talked about that though.
All right, we did. All right.
Real
quick, let's share our comment from our buddy Buster Bennett, who's been on the podcast before. He comments on YouTube here. I think
that's his contenders.
Yeah, he gives his top 5 Stanley Cup contenders. He puts Colorado number 1, Vancouver number 2, Rangers number 3, Oilers number 4, and Florida Panthers number 5.
So that's we had it right on the edge.
That's a very different list than ours, but Buster, we appreciate you telling us your list there. That's really good. I love that. Also, Buster puts his top 5 as 1 Preds, 2 Preds, 3 Preds, 4 Preds, 5 Preds.
Yeah, pretty much.
So good stuff there. Also, real quick, our buddy Johnny Predemption says if Vancouver loses in Arizona tonight, the race for the Pacific got a lot more interesting.
And we can tell you from watching last week, do not write off the Coyotes now.
So, I mean, this is what's so just awesome about hockey is so many different races, President's Trophy, division races, wild card races, home ice advantage here and there. Who's going to play who? We don't know. And we've got some teams have 6 games left. Some teams have 7. It's just so much fun. This is why we love it.
Absolutely.
Great stuff. Also want to give a shout out to the women's basketball, because before we close this episode out, I grew up playing basketball. I love basketball. It's a beautiful game. Didn't have the physical traits to ever take it long term and just wasn't tall enough. But either way, I love basketball. I love playing it. Love watching fundamental good basketball. And that Iowa LSU game, women's Elite 8, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, not just those two great basketball players, by the way. I'm talking like both teams had amazing talent on the floor. That was one of the best basketball games that I have watched in a very long time. NBA, men's college basketball, I don't care. It was so fun to watch. I was at the edge of my seat. Didn't care who won. I was just on the edge of my seat wanting to watch great basketball. I got that. I'm happy for all of the women out there who champion this sport, who play hard, who play fundamental basketball, don't get the recognition they deserve. That game put up a 12 million rating, which is higher than any Stanley Cup game, higher than a lot of NBA games, higher than World Series, you name it. I'm very happy for the women's game for that because they get overlooked a lot. They play their hearts out. And it was really cool to see that stage and see those women ball out in that game. So that was awesome.
Unfortunately, I didn't watch the game, but everyone talks about it a ton, and you don't need to really, for especially Caitlin Clark, you don't need to watch a ton of her to know how good she is.
Gosh, man. Caitlin, I mean, she's Steph Curry out there. She was playing like Steph Curry. I mean, just like
the ball.
Yeah. Step back threes, and then the fans were in it. And it was the role players for each team, LSU and Iowa, the role players. Jason Sudeikis was there cheering on Iowa. I mean, it was just like so fun. The coaches.
Did you hear what LSU's coach said about Caitlin Clark after the game?
I think she said, "I'm glad she's gone."
Well, see, that was too, which obviously means out of respect. But they asked before, like that same question to like, how do you guard someone like Caitlin Clark? Because she's like, well, there's really not strategy. You got to somehow do it. And she said even last year when we won, we still didn't guard her. So it's like, she's like, what are you going to do?
I mean, and you saw like Caitlin Clark would hit these ridiculous threes, and the LSU players were throwing up their arms like,
what are you going to do?
It was great defense, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. I never played anywhere close to that kind of a level of basketball, obviously, but I know that feeling when you're a defender in basketball and you played great defense, you played closeout defense, and a shooter just gets hot. But she's on a different level. She's just like not even fair. So, but I just wanted to give a shout out to that. We cover hockey, we talk Titans, but we're all sports fans here, and I wanted to show us some love to the women's basketball game because those ladies played their heart out. And they played a great game, and I'm in it. I mean, the Final Four is fun. You got UConn in there. You got Iowa. You've got some fun teams in there. So UConn and Iowa are going to play in the Final Four. So the Caitlin Clark effect lives on. So I'll be interested to see what those ratings look like.
Go ahead. Did NC State's women's make the Final Four?
Yeah, they did. So
crazy about. I don't remember because like NC State men and women, and so did UConn. I don't remember the last time. I could be wrong, but I don't remember the last time where the men and women had two teams in common in the Final Four.
No, that's pretty cool. I don't know if it's ever happened, honestly. But yes,
I don't know
NC
either.
State women.
I know because
cool.
I remember a few years ago, UConn men and women both won, but I don't think other common teams were in the Final Four like that. So that's interesting.
Yeah. And the women's game has always been kind of like for a while there, it was very top heavy, and it was like UConn beating everybody by 50 and stuff like that. But let me tell you, women's basketball is a lot of fun to watch when the talent level is more spread out because the women, man, they play fundamental basketball. They play hard basketball. They play defense. No offense to the NBA players, but y'all need to start playing some defense. The women's game, they play defense. They play the game the right way. And when you've got two teams going toe-to-toe like LSU and Iowa did, that is some really awesome. And I'll admit it fully, I'm a hockey guy, but I was watching that women's game over hockey. I had
awesome things to do. I had other meeting stuff, so I couldn't watch the game, unfortunately. But
either way, shout out to the women's game. Shout out to the NHL as well, because guess what? This is awesome to watch these last few games and see all these playoff races. Pred's got some work to do. We will keep you updated throughout the week and give you a new episode next week. Hopefully, we will be talking playoff berth by the next time we put an episode out there. But until then, we really appreciate all of you watching tonight with us. This has been episode 227 of Catfish on Ice with Chad Minton and Max Greenberg, your host. We hope you have a great weekend, a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there. We love all of you. Go Preds. We will talk to you soon.
See you guys later.